What's up, everybody? Happy Tuesday and welcome to the Early Edge. We have a great show in store for you today. Before we get to our picks, though, let's take a look at what we did yesterday on Monday. I pushed overall. This is not very good. We were 2-5-1. Tell you what, at the end of the week last week, we were really red hot. We got to get back onto that train. But before we bring in the stars of the show, I want to remind everybody, I think people might be confused. Is it Monday? Is it Tuesday? Yesterday was a holiday. Well, it's Tuesday. So the early wedge is tonight at 7 o'clock. Please don't forget that. The RBC Canadian Open. I've been studying this tournament for the last 2 days. Me and EC and Patrick McDonald will be with you tonight at 7 o'clock, breaking down our favorite plays for this tournament. All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, let's just go ahead and get to the picks. I see everybody in the chat. I see you, Big Cheesy, Joe, Bradley, Ed, Chris Kish, Judah. Let's go ahead and bring in the stars of the show. We've got Propstarz, we've got Buckets, and we've got my second favorite Zach of all time, Zack Cimini. Zach, I want to start. He's holding up the number one because he wants to move up to the one spot, which I totally understand. That's reserved for Zach Morris. But Zach, you can grab that spot. We still have time. Let me ask you this. I want to get some NBA reaction before we get into official picks. Hello, Buckets. Hello, Propstarz. Zach, I'm going to start with you. Celtics sweep the Pacers. I win my showdown against Maestro. 2-0 so far in the playoffs against him. Feeling good. With that said, Celtics look like the team to beat. The Dallas series not even over yet. Your reaction to the Celtics making the finals, and or do you like the Celtics? They're a prohibitive favorite now, like minus 220, minus 225. Do you like maybe somebody emerging out of the West like the Dallas Mavericks, or is this the Celtics to lose?
I think the Mavericks should be their best competitive series opponent for the Boston Celtics. But when you look at the playoffs going into June, it's more so about your path. And you've got to say that the Boston Celtics have had the easiest path maybe in you have to go back probably the early 90s to see this path that the Celtics had. Injuries to the opposition against the Miami Heat with Jimmy Butler out and their plethora of players as well. And then, of course, against the Pacers, who they had it going, Sia, in 3 of those games. You just would like to see if they would have had Tyrese Halliburton healthy, Benedict Mathurin healthy, what could have happened in that series. I definitely think it could have went 7 games, but we'll never know. But being able to get this rest, because I do think Minnesota can push Dallas, maybe an extra game or 2 is going to play to their favor.
Interesting. They can push Dallas. Maybe that's a preview to a pick we have later on the show. Probably before I get your reaction, Buckets, I got to come to you because you look a little sullen today, which, by the way, means sad. And I'm thinking it's because your Indiana Pacers got swept. Your reaction, I know you had $2.68 or $2.12 on the Pacers to win it all at 30-1. So that ticket doesn't cash, my friend.
Well, here's my embarrassing reaction to that is I didn't know the game started yet. So now that I know that my team got swept, that means multiple were played, and I will have to check on my missing $2.18 or whatever it was. But congrats to the team that beat the Pacers.
Yes.
The Nuggets?
Well,
close?
No, not really, but
that's fine.
It was Buckets, the Boston Celtics. Proppy, your reaction again. I look at the Celtics. Obviously, they've already advanced to the finals. They're certainly deemed the better team here, even regardless of who the Mavericks or whether the Mavericks or Timberwolves advance. What are you looking at here? I mean, Porzingis isn't even playing for this team yet, but I thought Zach brought up such a good point. Like, the Celtics haven't played great basketball, in my opinion, for 4 quarters, or at least when they have it. It hasn't been often. Do we give the Mavericks probably advancing a really good chance to win this championship?
I certainly do. Anytime we're talking about Luka Doncic, I think he definitely deserves the benefit of the doubt. If we look at this Mavericks team as a whole, having Kyrie as a secondary option, he's really thriving in this role, playing great basketball. Dallas is playing exceptional on both ends of the floor. They're very well coached. Luka playing at a high level definitely appears to be over whatever was ailing him in that first series against the Clippers. Then in the second series against OKC, they've gone through a murderer's row, a gauntlet in order to reach the finals. I think that'll benefit Dallas because Dallas has really had to fight and claw, come from behind, really show off a lot of resiliency. Meanwhile, Boston's been on cruise control. I also look at this interior front court for Dallas, has outplayed the combination of Rudy Gobert, the reigning defensive player of the year, Naz Reid, the sixth man of the year, and Karl Anthony Towns, 25 plus point per game scorer over his career and multiple time All-Star. Daniel Gafford and Derek Lively, a rookie and a throw-in at the trade deadline, have provided them with tremendous front court production on both ends of the court. So this Dallas team is playing great basketball. If Al Horford is starting games at center, that's going to be a big problem for Boston, as with the aforementioned combination of Gafford and Lively. So I think this Dallas team is certainly playing at a very high level. I think it's kind of a 50-50 toss-up as far as I'm concerned in a series against Boston, but I am very certain it'll be very competitive, likely come down to 6 or 7 games as well.
Propstarz, when I think of clutch time, which these games are likely going to come down to the fourth quarter, like we've seen when you got two really good teams against each other, I think Luka, then I think Kyrie. I haven't even thought of a Celtic yet. And for the record, when I do, it's probably Jaylen Brown next. Maybe Derek White after that. Maybe Al Horford after that. I don't love Jason Tatum in crunch time. He's great in blowouts. I don't love him in clutch time. So I look at this Luka Kyrie thing, and I think in the fourth quarter, these two figure out a way to win a game. So I don't know that my money will be on Dallas. Let's wait and see how this Western Conference series plays out. But this is going to be a very exciting series regardless. All right, Buckets. We're done with the NBA. We're done with the Indiana Pacers and your $2.12. But we've still got the pitch. We got a couple of soccer games to talk about, a couple of official picks. You get the start.
See, we've got some really good matches this afternoon, and we're going to start with that Zweite Bundesliga promotion relegation battle between Verein Wiesbaden and Regensburg. Last week, we cashed both teams to score on the first leg of this matchup, in which we talked about how Regensburg had to produce a result at home because when they were going to travel to Wiesbaden, they were going to get run over. They managed to pull a 2-2 draw, which I just don't think will be enough, as this Wiesbaden side played better in that first leg, now gets to produce the final result here at home. I'm going with Wiesbaden over 1.5 team total at -105. And I am not joking when I say that I would have played this at -150, and I would have played that confidently. This line seems a bit off to me, considering how much better and how much in form, as crazy as it is to say, this Verein Wiesbaden side is at the moment. Then for our second play, we're going to the Austrian Bundesliga in a big matchup between TSV Hartberg and Austria Vienna. And if you are a fan of head-to-head and recent form and just following the last 10 matches or so, then you have to love these clubs because you have to love betting on goals. We're taking both teams to score, and over 2.5 goals is the same game parlay in this one at -115. Right now, wrong team. Austria Vienna has hit over 2.5 goals in 5 of their last 6. Hartberg has in 9 of their last 10. Both teams have scored in 8 of the last 9 of Hartberg. These are two teams that play the quintessential style of football that I love, where they do not play defense, but they play tremendous attack. Their last 3 head-to-head have all hit both teams to score and over 2.5 goals. This might even be the kind of game where you bet over 3.5 instead to get that from -115 to +165 if you want to be a little bit more risky here. But I love goals anytime we see these two teams take the pitch.
All right, we're asking for goals for sure. If you want to make this bet, I got a really good place to do it. You, me, Jamie Foxx. We do it at new BetMGM. New BetMGM customers can sign up today and get up to $1,500 in bonus bets. Just place your first wager of at least $10, and you'll receive up to $1,500 instantly if your bet loses with bonus code EDGE. That's bonus code EDGE, EDGE. Ladies and gentlemen, we got to get to that tease that Zach dished out about, I don't know, maybe the Minnesota Timberwolves maybe being competitive tonight against Dallas. I don't know, maybe taking the win. We'll have to wait and see what his pick is. And of course, Proppy has a few picks. I've got a pick, and we'll all hear about it after this message. We are back on, well, most of us are back on the early edge, presented by BetMGM. Proppy waving goodbye to Buckets. I'm sure he'll be back with us. But Zach, you don't want to wave goodbye necessarily to the Timberwolves yet. By the way, if anybody's interested, the Timberwolves, they're 30-1 to win the championship. Not saying you should play it. I'm just giving you numbers. I'm definitely not playing that. But Zach, I loved the Timberwolves coming into the playoffs. I was right until I was wrong, and I feel like I'm at the point where I'm wrong about the Minnesota Timberwolves. Nonetheless, there's a singular game tonight. I'm not talking about the series. I'm talking about the game tonight that you have a play on. What is the play?
Yeah, see, I think this has been a strange series because I like Dallas Mavericks to win this series, but you just can't see this Minnesota Timberwolves team getting swept. Closing out a team of their caliber is so tough to do in the postseason. So I'm going to grab them tonight plus the 2, even though that they're down 3-0 to this Dallas Mavericks team. The market has been on Minnesota's side each game of this series. They were the bigger home favorite than what we've seen from the Dallas Mavericks in games 1 and 2. And the market has moved their way on the road against the Dallas Mavericks. Certainly in game 3, game 4 tonight has swayed slightly. I saw some 1.5s out there back up to 2, but it's a smaller number. And I just look at the way they've played in these first 3 games. They haven't figured out the way to close out Dallas in the fourth quarter. Had a 7-point lead in the fourth quarter of game 2, 5-point lead in game 1. Game 3, they had to fight back, but did tie it late in the fourth quarter, 104 apiece. So that element, you've got to believe they're going to figure that out sooner than later, or their season is going to be over. And then a new wrinkle for tonight, at least for game 4, is the Mavericks will not have Derek Lively. I think that changes things, makes them play smaller, and then you're only going to have one capable big, really, in Daniel Gafford, which we saw the Minnesota Timberwolves have success against teams in that situation, with the Phoenix Suns with Nurkic, with the Denver Nuggets with Jokic. So I think that can help them from a defensive standpoint, maybe help them for those stretches offensively. We've seen them get a little bit stagnant. This is a team that was up 18 points in game 2, Sia. I think they sense the moment, play with a little pride tonight. I'll take them plus the 2 points.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that. I mean, I do think this is one of those teams that has the team makeup to, quote, play with pride and actually have that matter in terms of the outcome and the result. I like this play. It seems like the sharp play, Timberwolves plus 2. And honestly, listen, I'm just throwing this out there. If they could win this game and then win the next game at home, all of a sudden the pressure is on the Dallas Mavericks to win game 6. I know that sounds ridiculous, down 0-3, but I do think the series is largely over, but I could be wrong about that. And it would really just take this game for at least some pressure to be applied back onto Dallas. So let's just wait and see what happens. I do like the Minnesota play plus 2. All right. I also like my play. I put this in on SportsLine, the first 5s largely coming back onto the site. So I was able to put this pick in. I will say, though, I've got the Reds first 5 money line. I want everybody to know it's at minus 141 at William Hill. BetMGM has a better number. There's some other places, outlets that have it at minus 130, minus 135. So please shop your number. We're going to have the entire bevy of sports books available to us in the very near future. But in this particular case, I have the minus 141. Long story short here, shop your lines. I like the Reds here. I like Andrew Abbott going against Kyle Gibson. I've been on this show before fading Kyle Gibson. It's kind of worked for me in large part, but he's been decent this year. Let's be real about that. I do think we're going to see regression coming for him. And what I mean by that is I think he's going to be even worse than he is right now, because right now he's been okay. If you look at his sample size, it's been a little bit better than I expected, but you look at his ERA, you look at his expected ERA, you look at his whip, far worse than Andrew Abbott. And while the Cardinals bats are heating up a little bit, they're particularly heating up against righties as opposed to lefties. So this team's still not great, even if you look at a sample size of the last 10 to 14 days, still not great against lefties, which of course Andrew Abbott is. I like where the Reds are right now. They just swept the Dodgers. They won last night against the Cardinals. They've won 4 in a row. They got the better pitcher on the mound. Again, you can get this at minus 130, minus 135 in a lot of places. I like that price a lot better, but either way, I expect the Reds to win this first 5 money line bet against the Cardinals. This one's at 640 tonight, by the way. All right, Proppy, you've got 2 MLB plays, I believe, and you've got an NBA play. So you're coming with a full complement of picks. So, my friend, you've got the floor.
Thank you, Sia. Yeah, we've got a 3-pack of plays, all plus money as well. We're going to start in the MLB, where I am going to fade Nestor Cortez of the New York Yankees in a myriad of ways. We're going to go under 17.5 pitching outs, which is plus money. We're going to go under 5.5 strikeouts, which is also plus money. I think Nestor Cortez, who's had a pretty solid season, is pitching a little bit above his head. If we look at some of the expected metrics, they would indicate that as well. But really, this is a very tough matchup that the numbers may not necessarily reflect this. But this Angels team is excellent. One of the best teams in baseball against opposing left-handed pitching. They rank in the top 5 in OPS against lefties, and then they rank in the bottom 10 in their K rate against lefties. So they don't strike out against lefties, and they hit lefties exceptionally well. 6 innings is a big number for Cortez. So love fading him in both ways. I think he has a great shot to maybe go 5 innings and get touched up against this very good Angels lineup that's played particularly well recently. We kind of shorten things from May 1st. They've been, again, one of the most productive lineups in baseball, particularly against opposing southpaws. So I rate them as one of the more difficult matchups with the current form they're in. So this is a very tough spot for Nestor Cortez, also on the road as well. So love fading him here, both under 17.5 outs. That's fewer than 6 innings, and then less than 6 strikeouts. And then we're going to move over to the hardwood. I'm going to fade Anthony Edwards, also plus money. You can find this floating around even odds to plus 110, but we're going to go under 12.5 rebounds and assists for Ant. This is a big number for Ant. Typically, this combination line fluctuates between 9.5, 10.5. You'll rarely see it at 11.5, but 12.5 is a big, big number for him. Reason being, he's averaging 8 rebounds and 8 assists through this series. That is way above both his season average, his playoff average, as well as right around 10 combined rebounds and assists. If you look at the rebound distribution, Cat has not been rebounding well whatsoever. Same with Rudy Gobert. I think they've had between them only 1 or 2 double-digit rebounding performances in this series. And Anthony Edwards has out-rebounded both of them pretty substantially. So I do not think that is sustainable. Also, Zach mentioned they could just be without Derek Lively, so that leaves a pretty thin front court of an undersized Daniel Gafford. So I expect a big advantage and a lot of effort from both Rudy Gobert and Cat on the glass, which should limit some of the rebounding opportunities for Anthony Edwards. And then if we look at the assist distribution as well, Mike Conley is averaging significantly fewer assists than he did in both the regular season and the previous 2 series here. Ant has been doing a lot of playmaking. I don't think that number is sustainable either if we look at their usage rates. So love fading Anthony Edwards, under 12.5 combined rebounds and assists, as well as Nestor Cortez, 2 different ways, under strikeouts and under outs.
Absolutely love the picks, Propstarz. And I love that we have A-Mags in the chat, by the way. We have Maestro in the chat. And we have Buckets in the chat. And by the way, I did not kick him off the show. It's something I've thought about doing, but I wasn't the one that kicked him off the show. Proppy, can I kick it back to you real quick? Are we still doing the Buckets Proppy ticket in 2024? I know that was a thing in, I believe, 2020. Are we doing that in 2024?
We are. We've got some preliminary numbers in. We're not doing quite as well with some of the early polls in Iowa as we anticipated, but we're hoping to have a late surge here, Sia, get back in the mix. But we did have to change parties. We're now part of the Green Party, so we may see Buckets dye his hair green since we're both going green, and we're joining the Green Party on our campaign trail.
Wow. I think we can expect green hair. Maybe that's why he had to leave early. He had an appointment. Green hair tomorrow.
It is.
All right. Well, I am not going to be voting for that ticket. Zach, yes or no on the Proppy Buckets ticket?
Why not? Let me join in with them.
All right. You got to dye your hair.
Defense right there.
You got to dye your hair green as well. By the way, shout out to the chat. I know a lot of people have been putting picks in the chat. You got a couple of minutes to ask A-Mags or Maestro or Buckets any question you want, but I saw picks from Big Cheesy and CID and plenty of others. I'll try to get to those a little bit more tomorrow, but props to everybody in the chat for getting those picks in there. And by the way, just a reminder, when you're in here, when you first come into this show, that's when you want to hit the like button as opposed to waiting for us to tell you. Early is always better. So tomorrow, try to make it a point right when you get in here, smash the like button. We'd appreciate it. All right. I'm sure you'd appreciate the recap screen. So let's get to it. Buckets. Oh boy. I feel like the W was like a V. Wehen, team total over 1.5 minus 110. And Hartberg, Austria Vine, both teams to score and over 2.5 at minus 115. I've got the Reds first 5 money line at minus 141. Again, shop your lines. You can get that minus 130, minus 135 at a bunch of places. Zack Cimini, T-Wolves, +2. With Proppy, Nestor Cortez, under 5.5 Ks at +105. Nestor Cortez, under 17.5 outs at +115. And Anthony Edwards, under 12.5 rebounds and assists at +105. All right, Bucket says, best of luck today, everyone. He says, thank you all for watching, and sorry that Sia kicked me off. I don't know. Maybe I did kick him off. I just didn't want the public backlash for kicking him off. So I can't confirm or deny. Sia Nejad Esquire, just giving you kind of what you need to know, what you maybe not need to know. But I did not kick him off, I promise. All right, I'll just leave it at that. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for joining the show. Big Cheesy, you say good luck, fam. Chris Kish says, thanks for the picks. Thanks for being in here on behalf of Buckets, on behalf of Propstarz, on behalf of Zack Cimini, and of course, Jake the Snake on the 1s and 2s and 9s and 10s. This has been The Early Edge. We'll see you tomorrow. And don't forget tonight, the Early Wedge. I am the Counselor of Cash. We rest our case.